Welcome to another episode of the Vegan Pulse. I am your host, Nancy Arenas. Today, my guest is Heather Landex. She is a food safety expert, inclusivity consultant, and trainer for restaurants and food service industry, and the author of the upcoming book, The Ultimate Starter, Inclusive, the New Exclusive. Stick around. I want to introduce her to you. Hi, Heather. How are you?
I'm really good today, thank you.
It is so very nice to meet you. It's morning here, it's afternoon there. So tell us where you're at.
I'm in Copenhagen, Denmark, but I'm originally British.
Okay. And what I'd like to ask you is, how did you come to veganism? If you don't mind sharing your story with our viewers.
I did have a few false starts. I think I first became interested in being vegetarian when I was about 14. I have a massive empathy for animals. I used to be the crazy cat kid. But actually, as soon as my mother put meat back in front of me, I just ate it because I was under so much pressure to eat meat. And then I married a vegetarian, and that's when it got interesting because it was more convenient to be vegetarian than not. And it was actually after pregnancy, because a lot of people put pressure on pregnant mothers or breastfeeding mothers to eat meat and dairy because they think it's healthy and they think there's some vital nutrients in it. And I was a bit shocked to find out the opposite afterwards. But when I returned, I started going to Danish school because I immigrated to Denmark. And there wasn't any vegetarian food or anything vegan. So I was always having chicken. And every time I ate chicken, I got stomach cramps. And it took me a long time to figure out that it was only when I went to Danish school. I thought maybe I was stressed because it's quite hard learning Danish. But basically, everyone told me I wasn't allowed to be vegan. And then I thought I'd show them. I tried veganuary, but didn't succeed. And it is because I have a huge weakness for dessert. Or I did have a huge weakness for desserts. But it took me about 3 months. So March 7th, I was in the UK visiting my family, and they were sort of ridiculing me a bit for wanting to be vegan. I kept saying, I should be vegan. And when I was eating out, I'd go for the vegan option if there was one. And Britain's quite a lot further ahead with vegan options than Denmark. Denmark, if you go outside the capital city, it's hard to find vegetarian. So because I got a bit of stick, I decided to host my daughter's 3rd birthday party 100% vegan. And I have a friend in the UK that's been vegan longer than me, about maybe 5 years longer. And she actually looked after me when I was pregnant. She came to Denmark to look after me for 2 weeks and fed me that time because she didn't want to eat anything vegetarian. She wanted to eat vegan. And I felt great. And my birth went well as well. Unfortunately, my daughter stayed in a bit too long for my friend to meet her. It was the day after she left. But that whole experience, she sort of just taught me that I can still have my desserts and be vegan. And what I really decided on the 7th of March 2019 was that I was going to be unpopular, basically, because I was just eating for convenience of everyone else. And I decided that if it was inconvenient, I'd just go hungry and try not to grump too much. I do get hangry. So I was trying to be subtly resilient against other people's opinion. And I think the more I did it, the more I felt entitled to not eat something. And it's sort of a running theme because I've figured out I'm very lactose intolerant. So it's actually harming me to be forced to eat milk. And I thought, why did I eat all that for all those years? And I felt a bit sort of resentful about not being vegan. So it stuck. And now I feel great.
That is awesome. And for me, the same thing. When I first went vegan, like everybody, first of all, nobody knew, and this was 8 years ago, what the word even meant here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I mean, there was a few vegans, but other than that, restaurants, my coworkers, and like, what the hell is that? And it was like I was an inconvenience to them. And I thought, there are people with allergies, nuts, dairy, and, that's just how they're made up. So why should my choice of not having animal products in my system be any different than that? Because it does affect me. Like you said, my stomach would be bloated, cramping. I never felt good when I had any animal products in my system. So I totally understand what you were saying about that. So
My
I'm
husband actually was very polite and ate some food that I hadn't told my friend. There was a big gap. We hadn't seen each other for 7 years.
uh
And she knew I had a Danish husband, but she didn't realise he was vegetarian. So she fed him, she made us roast chicken. And he ate the vegetables and then vomited on the quiet. And I was like, wow, it really has a huge impact on people if they think, because a lot of the problem that I deal with is it's in food, even though it's called vegan sometimes, like, or it's called plant-based is more common. And it's like, well, that's actually harmful for people who don't normally eat meat. It makes them ill.
yep.
And it's the same for other religions where they don't eat certain meat products. Or there's a lot of vegetarian religions, or even beyond vegetarian into vegan, or even beyond that. Um, and they would be ill if they ate animal products.
Yeah, and the other thing, when you said that about your husband being vegetarian, being fed chicken, I don't know if you saw that movie, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, where
I have
the
seen it a
where
long time ago.
where the guy is vegetarian, and she takes him to her Greek family, and he goes, "Oh, mom, he's vegetarian," and he goes, "Okay, I'll feed him lamb." Like they don't sometimes they don't even understand what the
It
word
still
means.
happens. People don't understand vegan, and I sort of understand that's a smaller minority, but they sometimes don't understand vegetarian.
Right,
Especially when I get to Spain and places, they seem to sneak small pieces of meat or fish in there. And it's just because it's made of vegetables, they think it's vegetarian, but it's like flavored with
right.
animal. It's really odd, isn't it? That people don't understand it, or they think vegan is vegetarian minus the egg and the milk, and they don't think of everything else.
Or that they could just take off the meat of whatever product
Oh, I just scrape it off
they're doing.
sometimes in front
Okay,
of
here you
me.
go. Anyhow,
Yeah.
so tell me a little bit about what you do, and about your new book coming out, please.
So my new book is called Inclusive, the New Exclusive, and it's for the food service industry to stop leaving money on the table is the title, but it's to include more people, and serve them more safely, because there's a lot of people who would eat a vegan option assuming it's free from contamination of animal products, and as well with the vegetarian sometimes. But places like Burger King or McDonald's, the really big chains, plant-based doesn't mean free from. It means it's made with substitute meat quite often. So your McPlant or your, Impossible Whopper are actually cooked on the thing or they're served with cheese and mayonnaise. So they got egg and milk on them, and then they've been cooked in animal fat because it's the same grill. And even the new vegan option is cooked in the oil where you have fish and shellfish. So if you have an allergy, and a lot of people are sent towards plant-based, and then they get more Google exposure to all the things around veganism and end up vegan. But they were trying to avoid the animal products to begin with for health reasons. And I think it's just a bit of an injustice that people are forced to eat these things rather than it should be allowed that you're entitled not to eat something. So the book's basically educating people who are not vegan or don't have an allergy or don't have an intolerance what it's like to be the customer, improve the customer experience by being very inclusive. And it also includes the people who are not vegan around the vegan, or the people without any dietary requirements around the person. And it's sort of an overlooked marketing opportunity. And if you make something commercially viable, then it's more likely to be sustainable in the economical sense.
And one of the things that I find is, especially when I was first becoming vegan, and I had to explain to restaurants when I went there, what I needed to eat. And the thing is that they should include more plant-based vegan options, because usually at the table, when my food would come out, even though the individuals at my table would have ordered chicken or some other animal product, when they saw my food, they would go, "I want that. How come
Yeah, and
I
it's
didn't
like
see that?"
mayonnaise, it goes first
They're
because
like, "I didn't see that on the
people like
menu."
vegetables.
Yeah, they go, "I didn't see that on the menu." And I'm like, "Well, because it's not on the menu." But what I'm saying is that people would opt to eat that if it was offered.
And I think you have to make your vegan option appealing to everyone, because quite often it's just a vegan burger. That's what I see everywhere. That really I'm fed up of vegan burgers. It used to be it was always some sort of dry risotto that they'd taken out the meat, taken out the cheese, taken out everything that normally goes into a traditional dish. And you can't just take things out. You have to come up with something creative. And there's plenty of chefs who are capable. It's just quite often their systems don't allow the allergy management because it's not a priority, because they think it's a very small minority when it's a dramatically increasing, it's fast becoming a majority of people have a dietary requirement. If they're vegetarian, vegan, allergies, intolerances, it's adding up.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, when is your book going to come out?
It's out on Monday, the 10th of May on Kindle.
Oh, congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
So I will have on, along with this podcast, the information to all your social media that you have shared with me to share with them, and where they can get that book, because I think it's very important what you do and trying to include more people instead of excluding them.
Yeah, it's a universal concept. Nobody wants to be excluding people. It's a bit like no one wants to be cruel. No one wants some extra contamination. It's all aligned with normal human needs.
Yeah, and I feel like restaurants, they're supposed to be feeding you something healthy. And so why not start moving if they haven't started, start incorporating plant-based whole foods. And they're going to understand that more people are going to order that when they see it, you know, instead of making it like such a big deal. Like,
and you can always add to it. If someone desperately wants meat with their dish, they can have the vegan option that's allergy friendly for milk, for example, if they're avoiding milk. And then they can have whatever they want on top, if it's vegan or whatever they prefer.
And the other thing I've observed is that when I go out to restaurants that are, you know, that have vegan options and things like that, most people leave their animal flesh on the plate. They eat a little bit and then, but they've eaten everything else. So I think it's time to start making the change and for restaurants to start feeding people healthy food.
And if you think of how much food safety is around animal products, they actually waste a lot before it hits the plate in terms of chicken breasts in the bin. Whereas they don't have that concern with other vegetable-based products. It's only the alternative meats that have the protein that is the risk for keeping it warm. And a lot of that is about speed of service. When people today maybe want more organic, healthier, and that quality of not preparing it in advance and keeping it warm, which is a bit gross in terms of food safety, maybe they could market that it's whole food, plant-based, cooked to order, bespoke to the person's dietary requirements or preferences. And it's that customization that's really exclusive. You can charge more.
Thank you, Heather, for being on the Vegan Pulse. I surely appreciate you and what you do. And we'll see you again. Bye-bye.
It's wonderful being here. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us in another episode of the Vegan Pulse. I am your host, Nancy Arenas. Remember to follow us on Facebook, check out our website, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you have a pulse, you have a purpose. Live vegan.